Okay, good morning. This is going to be take two of how to post materials to Digication and then post them over to Blackboard. Um, the video I did a couple days ago was fairly explanatory. However, I had some screen display issues, and so here's another take on it that should show my entire desktop screen and thereby make it a little bit easier for you to follow. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Jaguar. Okay, so get Tamusa up. Okay, here we go. Here's our Tamusa website. Scrolling down to Jaguar. I'm going to go ahead and log in. So if I were a student, I'd be going in under Student Services, so I've got that highlighted with my cursor here. Click under Student Services. So then we have the third link down is Digication or ePortfolio. You're going to want to click that. So I'm just going to create a new one to demonstrate for you how to do that. In case you don't remember from me going through the process in class. We're going to start by clicking this white plus sign on the green background. So note here you're going to get a couple of choices. I would go ahead and create from scratch, which is the default setting on here. The reason for that is going to become obvious in a few minutes because you're going to be building your pages through a tiering process, and it's much easier to do so if you start from essentially start from a blank canvas, if you will. So the first thing you're going to do is choose a name for your folio. So I would do your first and last name, and then writing folio. And I'm just going to do take two because I think I've got more than one of that title in here. So note here that what's going on is that the system is automatically creating a unique URL for your folio. Okay, so this is gonna become important, and you can change what that URL is if you want. I wouldn't necessarily bother with it, but you certainly have that option. So we're gonna hit create. This is an entirely blank folio. And note that all you have at this point is one single page. Now we're not going to put any assignments on this page, okay? This is going to be for front matter. This is going to be where you introduce yourself, where you talk about the philosophy of the folio, and where you talk about your identity as a writer and how you progress through the semester. We'll be revisiting this fairly soon in the term, but for now you can leave this page alone unless you want to begin exploring your design elements. Remember to play with the design elements. You would click your settings cog and you have the design elements available here. I'm not going to go through that right now, and some of you are far more expert at that sort of thing than I am. What I do want to go through right now is something that you want to make sure that you go ahead and do, and I've already been asked about it specifically in class. So up here in the right hand corner you see this button that highlights as Portfolio Actions menu. You want to click this and you want to go to Settings. Okay, this looks very similar to the screen that we just saw with regard to creating the folio itself, although it has some additional options. We're going to look at some of these additional options. So note that right now it's set as private only to me being the creator of the folio. You can go ahead and make that private to within A&M San Antonio, or you can keep it private only to me. I would go ahead and do private within A&M San Antonio because you want to be able to have people access it when needed, and that's just another fail-safe. Um, what's really, really important, though, as far as the functionality of this course and so forth, and how we do things, you want to go down here under permissions, specific permissions. And you want to click the edit, and you want to type my name, okay? And then you want to select me as either an editor or a publisher, okay, and or a viewer. Okay, but you definitely want me as an editor or a publisher. Why? Because in case you forget to publish something in your folio, and we'll talk about publishing pages here in a little bit, but in case you forget to publish a page, I will still be able to see that material if indeed it is saved in your folio and you've sent me the correct URL. But we'll talk about all that here in a little bit. But you want to select me as either an editor or as a publisher. Okay? So we're going to save the settings. Now, here we are back in our original screen. So you note this lock up here in the right corner. This lock corresponds to your navigation page, okay, your navigation plane. All right, you're going to want to unlock it. When you do so, you will see this edit option here. You want to click this. What it does is it takes us to a an area where we can add in pages, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add in a page. Now this first page underneath the home page, note that if it is flush, if your page is flush with the home page, okay, you might change this to About Me or whatever you want to call it, but if it's flush with the first page, that means it's going to show up directly within that navigation plane, okay? But we're going to, I'll give this a title. I'll just call this Other Writings, because the first assignment that we're turning in does not specifically correspond to either one of the two major projects that we're doing. Okay. You could also, as I talked about in class, you could tier everything out. You could have this first page be English 1301 and then tier everything out underneath that, and then have a second page flush with the home that would be 1302 or 2311. It's really up to you how you set this thing up. Okay, so we've got this Other Writings page here. So I'm going to add another page, and this other page is going to be, and I'm moving it one space in from Other Writings, and I'm going to title this the title of our first assignment, because that's where I'm going to put the first assignment. So I'll call it Reflections on My First Week of Fall 2018. Okay. All right, and I'll show you the effect that this has when we go back to the other page. So we'll click Save. It takes us back to this page. Now you see that Other Writings there. Okay. Underneath there is now the page Reflections on My First Week of Fall 2018. I'm going to click on that. Okay, right now there's no content here. I'm going to want to add some content, obviously. Okay, so if I wanted to add additional slides, I could now. There's one slide native on here, as you can see, but I could add additional slides to do additional content and other things, and I could layer things. I'm not going to get into all that right now, frankly, because at this point I myself am not 100% expert at such things, right? But I can show you, if you click Add Content, we have a plethora of options here, and you'll remember this hopefully from when I went over it in class. But I'm gonna do Upload File, okay, and I'll click Choose File. It's going to take me to my hard drive. So I've got this file here. Kurt's first week of fall 2018. Okay, I'm going to click on this. I'm going to upload it. It'll take it a second. So here's the file, and I can of course resize this to make it easier for my readers, so on and so forth. I can caption this. I can put in an additional slide, like I could put in additional content, like if I wanted to add in a text box above this, I could do that. So I could put this here, and I could add in a text box that would essentially introduce it or put a title on it. For this right now, I'm not so much concerned about that, but I've got my little text box here. All right, what I'm going to do now that I have this is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to publish changes. And here we have, and again, I can publish here too. This is probably the way you're going to publish most often. You can do publish this page. I can do publish pages. The key thing, if you're going to publish individual pages, is make sure that you're on the page that you're in fact publishing at the time, right? But you can also choose to publish multiple pages at one time, and then you would use the publish pages option. Make sure that you publish your material before you send the URL to Blackboard. So now what the heck am I talking about sending the URL to Blackboard? Well, you'll note that each page of your folio has a unique URL. So if this is your document with your first assignment in it, right? If this is the page of your folio with your first assignment in it, this is the URL that corresponds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL. Okay, copy this URL. Then I'm going to go back to Musa. Okay, I'm going to click on Blackboard. I'm going to go into our Blackboard site. Now, this may not exactly be your class, but it's a class that's parallel to yours. So this example will be apropos, right? So I'll click on course content. And you see here, this is the assignment description of our first assignment. So you'll click the active link here, okay, for the assignment. Click it. If you scroll down, you see a write submission box. Okay. Now, you'll Control V, and there's that URL. Okay. Now, this is really important. You're going to want to click Submit on this. If you don't click Submit, it is not uploaded to Blackboard, and you do not get time-stamped, and you do not get credit for having turned in your piece on time. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. I do want to briefly mention, as far as the Blackboard gradebook by way of review, the points that you see, the scores, I should say, that you see from 1 to 5 in the Blackboard gradebook, or you will see from 1 to 5 in Blackboard gradebook, are not traditional numerical scores. They are emblems, right? A 5 represents complete, a 4 represents, I believe I said, incomplete and late. A 3 represents, I believe I said incomplete, and so on and so forth. Anyway, there's a key, okay, to this in your syllabus, so you want to refer to that. But do note that you do not add those scores together to achieve some kind of numerical score that's somehow averaged or interpreted as a grade for the class. The numbers in Blackboard are simply emblematic of the level of completeness and or the assessed quality of your labor. The course is, your grade in the course will ultimately be determined based on the labor chart that is in your syllabus. So please refer back to that. Okay, I think that's all for this tutorial. Again, if you have any questions, talk to me in class, send me an email, um, drop by my office hours. All right, I shall see you tomorrow in class. Thanks a lot.